The Saturday Brunch Film Review.
It's our very first swap shop feature now. It's like that moment when you lend a DVD to your friend with the risk of potentially never getting it back, but it's the safe version because we do all of that for you.
Indeed.
And the film that we've gone for this time round, it is Tom who's recommended... No, I actually picked it myself
I'll give you that.
I am aware of... I was aware of the reaction.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way.
I'm an enormous fan of this film. It is easily one of my absolute most favourite films of all time. It's an absolute genuine classic that Dom has never seen. And just
Until
to put
now, I watched it upstairs.
in Radio Cardiff Towers, in fact, as we call it. I kind of like that. And just to put in context again, of course, the year of anniversaries, this is the 35th anniversary of Alien.
Certainly, to be scared has been part of human nature since its very beginnings.
What Alien says about us now are those fears that we have, which may be those fears that show up when we're dreaming, the nightmares.
I think he took a lot of techniques from Alfred Hitchcock in the sense that you don't really see everything. The imagination is used, and I think that's what made it so terrifying.
I think once you're making a movie, you better keep that pressure on all the way through. On anything, actually. But God knows on a thriller, or God knows it's a marathon of tension.
Alien. Certificate X. In space. No one can hear you scream.
Alien, yes, 35 years old this year, directed by Ridley Scott and starring Sigourney Weaver. So, the plot of the film, it follows the crew of the Nostromo, which is a towing vehicle. And on the return to Earth, they discover a warning signal from a nearby planet, and they're awoken from their cryogenic sleep. They go to investigate the signal and discover an abandoned ship filled with eggs. The eggs appear to have some kind of organic organism contained within. One of the organisms attaches itself to one of the crew members, and then, the rest it goes a bit wrong after that. I should just leave it at that for those who haven't seen
It goes a bit south
Alien.
for the poor
bit
people
south.
on the ship.
But yes, the clue's in the title, obviously, and it is one of the greatest films of all time, and you've never seen it.
Not until this point.
Now.
But I come from a very interesting perspective, having watched this film, which I'll get to in a sec, but I totally agree with you, it being one of the best horror sci-fi films of all time. There are genuine moments in this, I could tell, were that elusive movie magic. For me, my favourite shot of the entire film is when Sigourney Weaver's character gets the cat, puts it in front of the alien, and it's looking at it. Like, there were so many moments in this where it was like watching Jurassic Park and having the T-Rex nudge the car. I'm like, this is gold. But yeah, I come from watching this film. I'm probably one of the few people that saw Prometheus first and then saw Alien.
Yeah, that's a very unique perspective, especially in this circumstance. I mean, there won't be that many people who will have seen Prometheus and not have seen Alien.
Because I didn't mind Prometheus when I first saw it.
Well, you wouldn't, because you hadn't seen Alien.
However, now that I've seen Alien, the amount of I can basically now safely say that I now totally scorn Prometheus, basically, because, well, if you've seen Alien and you've seen Prometheus, you're probably more than aware. Basically, Prometheus, more than just being a prequel, is a total reskin of Alien. And the light switching on moment for me, was the bit where Ian Holmes' character is ousted as an android. I was like, oh, come on. I knew there were nods, like the moments where they first walk into the ship and they see the engineer in the seats. Straight out of, well, technically straight out of Alien, went into Prometheus, but for me, straight out of Prometheus, the ship itself, loads of stuff. But,
well, just to put some of that in context then, right? So you've got the Nostromo, which is the abandoned ship on what is later named LV-426 in Aliens. It isn't in this film, but that is the same planet. This is Alien we're talking about now, by the way. It does get confusing. So you've got the Nostromo. In the Nostromo, you've got the space jockey, which is then renamed as the engineer in Prometheus. Basically, what they've done with Prometheus was the original plot was to be that the ship in Prometheus was the ship from Alien, so the same ship, the Nostromo, on LV-426. Then Sam Pratt came by the name of...
Damon Lindelof.
Thank you. I did raise that from my memory because he really annoyed me with this. And he decided, I've got a better idea. Let's expand this universe, do lots of sequels. Let's make it a different planet with a different ship. And that's where Prometheus went wrong. But going back to Alien and how brilliant Alien is for once. I mean, there's so much good about this film. We could be here all day, frankly. First of all, Sigourney Weaver's character, probably the first big, female action hero almost. I mean, not so much action in this film, but she is the sole survivor of the film. And, I think originally it wasn't even intended to be a female character that was to survive.
Oh, really?
No,
wow, fantastic.
In fact, I think Dallas, the captain, played by Tom Skerritt, was the original surviving character.
And I think you can kind of tell because, I was aware who kind of survived this film. I was aware it was going to be Sigourney Weaver's character. But if you watch it from the start, it isn't immediately clear which one is going to survive. It could literally be any of them.
Or none.
Or none.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. That was,
And even though Sigourney Weaver's character lives to the end of the film, I still liked that she wasn't a typical action hero. Like, she does it. She's sure she survives and takes on the alien most successfully.
She was broken, though, wasn't she?
Absolutely.
She was completely broken.
It wasn't like a sort of like, I'm a sort of Lara Croft escaping here. She was very bad at what she was doing.
There were no heroes.
Absolutely.
There were no heroes.
That's it. That is the best line we've had so far. There are no heroes in Alien. It's quite right. I mean, you also have to look at the style of the acting, I think, in Alien as well. Very, very key. Even compared to the successes. It almost feels like a documentary at one point. The conversations around the breakfast table. I mean, you can't even hear what the conversations are. They're almost inaudible. People are just chatting. It's very, very naturalistic as a film. Not something you'd expect for this kind of genre, for this kind of style of film. And a lot of that is based on the insecurities, I think, that the actors had against each other, and also the setting of the film and the way it was filmed, as the whole set was actually self-contained. So once you were in that set, it wasn't as if like the fourth wall is missing and there's cameras pointing at you. They were in that ship sealed. There was a claustrophobic
I love that
atmosphere.
set. I love that set. For me, it goes up there alongside, say, Bag End and the Skywalker Homestead, which I've actually had the honour of visiting both bits of it as a set I would love to be able to just walk around in for hours. I mean, and an alien factor that I want to bring to the table, done my research, see.
Go for it.
In terms of insecurities for the actors, when it comes to the infamous chestburster scene, I don't think they were aware what was going to happen.
Oh,
I knew you'd say this.
Fantastic.
Is that fake?
Now, there is a bit of sort of, is it, isn't it true? Now, it is almost true. It is almost true that they weren't aware exactly how it was to be done, apart from, of course, John Hurt, who did. They were aware that the alien was going to make an appearance, but they weren't aware how it was done. And Veronica Cartwright, who plays the other female character, her name escapes me now. I got the actress and I couldn't get the character. How weird. It'll come back to me. She was not aware that she was going to get absolutely plastered with blood. And there's an incredible deleted scene on the DVD where the blood comes out so fast, it hits the floor, she actually slips and falls. And you can hear Ridley going, keep filming, and they just keep going. And they just didn't stop. They didn't let the actors come out of that. It was just react and keep going. I mean, it's just, so good. It's so good.
I want to touch on the alien itself as well. You rarely ever see it, and I still felt, unlike a lot of movies where you rarely ever see the big beastie, I rarely felt I had time to, or the inclination to imagine that monster.
Yes.
Which was interesting. It was a really efficient monster. It literally just turned up, did the job, and then vanished again. I didn't even have... I didn't imagine anything surrounding it. It was just that was the creature.
So the alien is actually based on a painting by H.R.Giger. I think it's called the Necronomicon. And they brought in Giger to actually do the designs for Alien, and then he ended up designing the interior ship of the Nostromo.
You can tell.
Yeah, it's sort of like, the walls are sort of carved out of, I think they're carved out of like animal bones, and he used like animal carcasses. It was very, very grotesque. The actual Alien special effects of the creature were actually done by Carlo Rambaldi, who did E.T. So that's quite kind of strange. He went on to do E.T. later on. So it was Giger and Rambaldi who made physically the alien. The actor who played him was 6'10". They found him in a pub just outside Pinewood Studios and just said, "Wow, that's the guy." And just said, "Are you free to do a bit of film?" And then, yeah, off he went. But if you look at him in person, he's very intimidating. He's very, very tall.
Bet, yeah.
But yes, you're right about the fact that you see very little of the alien. they do everything they can basically to not show anything. I mean, there's a great moment in the escape ship at the end where you think the alien is dead on the ship, and Sigourney Weaver gets out of her spacesuit into her little pants, which everybody seems to remember quite vividly, and she's just flicking some switches and everything's kind of like mundane. And
yeah,
all of a sudden,
I felt she was
alien
safe.
hands.
I felt she was safe.
That was a fantastic
Just
bit.
brilliant.
Great.
And all it
Puts
is
you in
a
full
hand.
sense of security and
Well, it does, doesn't it?
Brilliant.
And oh god, well, I could just talk about this film for hours. I mean, you mentioned the set. I mean, every sci-fi film and TV show, specifically one of my favourites, Red Dwarf, so heavily influenced by the set designs in Alien. Ron Cobb did the concept art for it. It's just phenomenal. Everything that comes after that is a result of Alien. And Alien was only made, by the way, because Star Wars was so successful. And Star Wars was the first big sci-fi film that the Hollywood producers sort of went, ooh, this is big bucks, because generally sci-fi wasn't popular. It was the only script that was in 20th Century Fox at the time that was sci-fi that they could just make. That's the only reason it got made. If Star Wars wasn't a success, they would never even have touched Alien.
I think you can tell. Loads of models, which I loved. I loved seeing models again. One final point I want to touch on was the other creature in the film, and I've titled it in my notes as That Bloody Cat.
Oh, Jonesy.
Yeah.
Oh.
The amount of trouble the cat causes in that film. At least 2 of the crew members died directly because of the cat, I'm pretty sure. The amount of times that Sigourney Weaver's character nearly dies because of that bloody cat. I actually like to think that rather than it being the... is it Wayland in
Weyland-Yutani is the corporation.
Rather than being them, the actual bad guy is that cat, and it was all orchestrated by that animal.
It had to be a cat as well, didn't it? Couldn't have been any other animal. There's no other animal so evil.
And one tiny thing I want to touch on as well is I thought was very well executed was that you could actually genuinely relate to the characters in the film in that there was a class system there. Because you had the engineers arguing with all the sort of officers going, we're not getting the right pay. You know, where's our bonus and all that sort of thing.
And that's the rest of the really mundane stuff, which is the first 45 minutes of the film, which I really liked as well, because you are waiting for the inevitable alien to show up. And it's... I don't think if Alien was made today, it wouldn't be made like that at all. You wouldn't have the first 40, 45, 50 minutes of quiet. Well, in fact, it was made today. It was called Prometheus, now I think about it. But anyway, if it was made fresh today and there was nothing else going for it, like you would have that alien in the first opening scene.
Yes.
Like without a shadow of a doubt. And then opening credits.
And one question for you, because we haven't really confirmed yet. Did you watch the original cut or did you watch the director's cut? There's one way to tell.
Yes, okay.
Because the director's cut is actually shorter, but it has an extra scene. Because they actually make the editing much tighter in the director's cut. But there's an alternate scene just before Ripley leaves the ship, before she blows up the ship. She goes into like this sort of cocooned area where most of the crew members that were killed earlier were actually not killed. The alien had taken them and cocooned them with eggs to have, breed in a sense. And you actually get to meet Ash dying, screaming, kill me now. And she actually kills Ash. Now, that's in the director's cut, but it's not in the original.
I hadn't seen that.
Right.
Oh,
It's a good scene, but it doesn't work. And it also then doesn't work for the sequels. It kind of messes up the whole sort of life cycle of the alien and stuff. But, Dom, we could spend 2 hours on this. You need to stop me now.
I'm not entirely sure we can.
The Saturday Brunch Film Review.